Welcome to the second Heartland Bible Church Youth Group Coronavirus Quarantine Bible Study. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Kristen and I are certainly rejoicing. We're well, we're healthy, our families are well, and we hope and pray that God is also watching over you and taking good care of you according to his great mercy and love. I want to pick up today in our study in the Gospel of Mark of the life of Jesus. Now, it's been a few weeks, of course, since we were together, but if you'll recall, we've been studying the life of this Jesus of Nazareth, this Son of God who was sent to make the things right in the world that had gone wrong. Now, we're going to be in Mark chapter 7 today, so if you have a Bible, you can turn to Mark chapter 7 and follow along while we're reading. And this is a really interesting place to pick up the story, because right now, we're doing a lot of things to keep from catching the coronavirus. We're wearing masks, we're washing our hands, we're staying far away from each other, and we're making sure that the coronavirus can't get inside our bodies and make us sick. Now, these are all good things to do, but there's another kind of virus that's even more dangerous and more deadly than the coronavirus. And that's the virus that we call sin. Now, of course, it's not a physical virus that you can see or kill with an alcohol swab. Sin, as we've talked about many times in Bible study, is anything that I think, anything that I say, or anything that I do that goes against God and against his ways. Now, there are two different ways to look at sin. One way, a way that many people think about it, is that sin is like a coronavirus. It's something that's outside of me. I am actually a good person. I'm a healthy person in my heart, spiritually. I'm in good shape. And if I can just keep the sin virus out, if I can do things like washing my hands or wearing a mask for the coronavirus, if I can do certain things, I can keep that sin virus from getting inside of me and making me spiritually sick. And that's how a lot of people think about it, that we're good people, and we just have to keep sin out to stay good. This is exactly what the Pharisees thought in Jesus' time. You remember the Pharisees, they were the big, high, mucky-muck religious leaders of the day. They knew the Bible inside and out. They could quote it to you from front to back. They had all the rules that they followed. They knew God's law, and they were very passionate about being religious and about keeping the rules. And in Mark chapter 7 here today, the Pharisees are going to come to Jesus and they're going to confront him because they have a problem with what Jesus and his disciples, his friends, his followers are doing. Read with me in Mark chapter 7, verse 1. Now when the Pharisees gathered to Jesus with some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem, they saw that some of Jesus' disciples ate with hands that were defiled. That is, they were unwashed. Now, understand that the Pharisees aren't upset because Jesus' disciples are eating with dirty hands. It's not like, oh, gross, they're covered with mud, or, oh, they're picking their nose and then they're eating hamburgers without even washing. It's disgusting. That's not what the Pharisees are upset about. What they're upset about is that there were certain rules about washing your hands. Rules that if you followed the rules in their minds, then God would be happy with you, and he would do good things to you and take care of you. In fact, Mark tells us about that in the next few verses. Mark writes, to explain, the Pharisees and all the rest of the Jews, they don't eat at all unless they wash their hands properly, holding to the tradition of the elders. It's something that's been passed down from generation to generation. And when they come from the marketplace, they don't eat unless they wash. And they have many other traditions like this, such as washing cups and pots and copper vessels and dining couches. I mean, they're washing a lot of stuff here. All so that they can please God and keep the sin virus out. Remember, they think that their hearts are good. They think that they're good people, and they just need to follow the right rules to keep sin out, and they'll be good before God. Let's see what Jesus says about this. So the Pharisees and the scribes came to Jesus and they asked him, hey, Jesus, Why do your disciples not walk according to the tradition of the elders like we do, but they eat with defiled hands? And Jesus said to them, he said, the prophet Isaiah, who lived many hundreds of years ago, he had a prophecy about you people. And boy, was it a good prophecy. It described you exactly. Here's what Isaiah said about you. Quote, "This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men." End quote. What did Jesus mean by this? What did Isaiah mean by this? Well, to honor someone with your lips, that would be like if I said to you, "You're my best friend, and I just appreciate you so much. There is nothing about you that I don't like. You're my absolutely favorite person in the whole world. I want to be friends forever." And the whole time that I'm saying this, I'm cutting your favorite clothes with scissors, just cutting them into ribbons. And I'm in your room smashing all of your stuff with hammers. And I'm taking all of your money in a big pile, and I'm lighting a match, and I'm burning your money right in front of you. But the whole time, I'm saying, "Boy, I really like you. You're such a great person. You're my favorite. Let's be friends for all of time." That's what it means to honor someone with your lips while your heart is far away from them. You say good things, but you do things that prove that you're a liar. And this is what Jesus said about the Pharisees. You Pharisees, you people who think that your hearts are good, and if you follow the rules, you can keep your hearts good and please God, that's who you are. You say that you love God. You say that you want to do the right things. But when you look at the way you live, you're not living for God. You say that you are, but you're not. Jesus said directly to them, he said, "You leave the commandment of God and you hold to the tradition of men." And he said further, he said, "I'm going to give you an example, you Pharisees. You have a fine way of rejecting the commandment of God in order to establish your tradition, your rules and regulations. Here's what Moses said. Remember, Moses went up to the Mount Sinai, got the 10 Commandments, brought them down, told the people the law of God, the things they should do and not do. Jesus said to the Pharisees, here's what Moses said, "Honor your father and mother." Well, what does it mean to honor them? It means that you do and you say to your mother and father what they ought to receive from you. You treat them respectfully. They might be worthy of respect, they might not. It doesn't matter. God's rule is you honor your parents. You care for them. You speak well of them. You don't tear them down. You don't talk back to them. You don't talk disrespectfully about them when they're not around. You obey them. This is what it means to honor your father and your mother. That's God's law. That's his rule. But, Jesus said to the Pharisees, here's what you say. You say this: "If a man tells his father or his mother, 'Whatever you would have gained from me is korban,' that means given to God, then you no longer permit him to do anything for his father and mother." Now let me explain what that means. The Pharisees had a rule that said, let's say that your father or your mother, they lose their job, and they have no money, and they have no food, and they are just in dire need. And let's say that you actually have quite a lot of money. If you're going to honor your father and mother, then you should probably help them out with that money, right? That would be following God's law. But the Pharisees had a little way around that. The Pharisees had a rule called korban. And all you had to do was say, "Oh, my money, it belongs to God. It's korban money. It's God's money. I can't just give it away to anybody, certainly not to you, Mom and Dad. I'm so sorry. I can't give you that money because it belongs to God." You see, it's a rule that sounds good. Oh, I'm doing this for God. But in reality, it means that you get out of actually doing what God actually wants you to do. And that's what Jesus accused the Pharisees of. He said, by doing this, you take the Word of God, you take the Bible, and you make it empty. You rip it up and tear it and shred it and throw it away, and you make it void and empty. It means nothing to you by these traditions, by these rules that you've passed down. And you do many, many such things like this. So Jesus left the crowd, left them to think about that. And he called all the people to him again, and he said to them, "Listen up, all of you, listen to me and understand. There is nothing that can come from outside you and go into you that can defile you." Remember, the Pharisees were all upset because the disciples weren't washing their hands right. Jesus said, there's nothing outside of you, no dirt, nothing that can touch you that can make you unclean in God's eyes. There's nothing that can come into you from the outside that would make God go, whoa, I don't want anything to do with that person. It can't happen. There is nothing that can come into you from the outside that can defile you. But the things that come out of a person are what defile him. There's a very important distinction here. Remember, a lot of people think that sin is something that's out there. I'm a good person, and sin is out there. Bad things are out there, and I have to keep them from getting in. What Jesus says is that you know what makes you unclean. You know how that sin virus works. That sin virus is already inside of you, and it comes out. That's what makes you unclean. That's what makes you spiritually sick. That is what makes your heart sick in God's eyes and puts a separation between you and God, so that you are not on good terms with God and he's not your friend. So this is what Jesus said, and when he'd entered the house and left the people, his disciples, his friends, his followers, they came to him and they said, Jesus, explain what you mean. We don't understand. And he said to them, are you also without understanding? Don't you see that whatever comes into you from the outside, it can't defile you, because it doesn't go into your heart. It goes into your stomach, and you digest it, and then it leaves your body, and it's gone. It can't hurt you. But what comes out of you is what defiles you. And these are the things that Jesus said make a person unclean, make them sick in the eyes of God, so that God doesn't want them to be around him unless that sickness is taken care of. From within, said Jesus, out of the heart of man come these things: evil thoughts, bad things that you think, dark thoughts, nasty things about other people. Sexual immorality, that's any kind of sexual relationship with someone that you're not married to. Theft, taking something that doesn't belong to you. Murder, well, we know that's bad. You don't want to kill somebody. Adultery, again, that's a sexual relationship with someone you're not married to, but you're married to somebody. It's cheating on them. Coveting, wanting what someone else has, wishing that you could, instead of being happy that they have that wonderful blessing that God's given them, being angry and wanting to take it for yourself. Wickedness, just general wickedness. Deceit, being a liar, telling fake stories, trying to lie to people. Sensuality, that's just addiction to pleasure, giving yourself over to just dirtiness, just dirty words, dirty languages, dirty stories, just giving yourself over to whatever makes you feel good. Envy, being jealous of people. Slander, telling stories about other people that aren't true. Hey, did you hear about what so-and-so did? Pride, thinking you're better than other people. And sometimes that's just thinking that they're less than you. Looking down on people, thinking that you're above them. Foolishness. Foolishness is just being unwise. To be wise means to listen to God's ways and follow in his paths. To be a fool means to ignore God and to walk in your own way because I don't really need to know what God thinks. Foolishness. All of these evil things, Jesus said, they come from inside. They come from the heart. And that's what makes you sick. That's what makes me sick. That's the problem I have. The problem isn't that the sin virus gets in from out there and can make me bad unless I have the right rules to stop it. If I go to church, or if I get baptized, or if I follow the rules my church says, or if I keep the 10 Commandments, and if I do all these good things, then the sin virus won't be able to get in. Problem is, according to Jesus, the sin virus is already there. It's already inside me, and it's already inside you. This is why Jesus is so very important. It's not that these other things are bad. We should, of course, want to go to church. We should want to obey the 10 Commandments. We should want to follow in God's way. We should want to do the things that please Him. But they won't keep sin from getting in because it's already there in your heart. If you've ever had an evil thought, if you've ever kind of chuckled at a dirty joke, if you've ever wanted what somebody else has, if you've ever been prideful, if you've ever thought that you're better than other people, or if you've ever looked down on someone else and thought, boy, I'm sure glad I'm not that person. They're so far beneath me. Any of these things prove that the sin virus is already in your heart. But there is hope. You can get cured from it. There's a vaccine for the sin virus. And that vaccine is Jesus Christ. That's why He came. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, God Himself, came to earth, took the form of a human person. He was a real person, just like you, just like me. His feet got dusty when He walked. He got tired. He got hungry. He got thirsty. And He even died. He died on the cross. He was nailed to a cross to take the punishment for all these evil things, for the sin virus that's in me. Because the punishment for sin is death. Viruses kill. Viruses are deadly. And if that virus lives in me already, I'm going to be spiritually dead. And I'm going to be separated from God forever. But Jesus is the cure. He died on the cross in my place, and took my sin. That's how I get cured of all these evil things that come out from within me. Not by keeping rules. I follow God's laws not to get better, but because Jesus has already made me better. And He can do that for you. All you have to do is stop trying to please God by being a good person. Stop trying to lift yourself up and do the right thing so that God will accept you. Stop believing that you're really a good person at heart. Understand that you already have the sin virus, but that Jesus has already cured it when He died on the cross and rose from the dead. And if you will believe that, and if you will put your trust and your faith in Him, He will cure that sin virus, and He'll start helping you live in a good way. Not so that you can please God, not so that you can stay good, but because God has already made you good. He's made you a new creation. He's given you a new heart, and He's given you the Holy Spirit who will live inside you and help you live in a good way. I hope you're doing well. I was happy to spend this time with you, and I look forward to doing more of these videos. Stay safe, stay well, and trust God through all this time. God bless you.